I'm an essentialist. I'm a minimalist.
The minimalist in a rapper's body. That's what Kanye West claimed he is. To many, when we mention his name, there's nothing more than controversies. From the Taylor Swift incident, to his Twitter rant, to running for president. But today, let us put all those controversies aside and let us take a look at his approach to minimalism. For me, as someone who was interested in fashion, Ye being a fashion icon wasn't something new to me. So seeing him change from someone who loves loud and fancy logos into a minimalist he claimed he is, that strongly resonates with me because it's almost like I went through the same transformation. And when the topic is about fashion and minimalism, my old and new love, I have to dive deep into it. So today, let us take a look at how Kanye uses minimalism as a tool. First, let us talk about his house. Or should I say, one of his many houses, I suppose. Particularly his Minimalism House, the one that appears everywhere on Netflix and different websites. Many label it as his minimalist mansion, so no surprise, it screams minimalism to our face. I know some might not appreciate this kind of minimal aesthetic, thinking that lack of things is driving them crazy, and some might even call it the rich man mental asylum. Regardless of those feedbacks, I love his approach because all those negative spaces make other furniture and structure stand out, and that's my own minimal preference. But of course, it doesn't mean being a minimalist, we don't own anything. But it means having less, we can also have lesser things to hide and organize. However, I have to say, if you have money like he does, everything will be easier to organize. TV can be hidden on the floor. They have a tap with no basin, which pushes the minimal aesthetic to another level. Some might think with a house this huge, everyone can be a minimalist. But I have to say, keeping your environment as minimal as this needs determination. Not everyone wants to do that or can do that. It depends if you appreciate this kind of aesthetic. Speaking of appreciation, Kanye has a certain appreciation for minimalist designers and artists, and that might be the result of his passion for design. And one of his earlier inspiration was a minimalist designer / architect, Le Corbusier, which might have been the entry point to his minimalism journey. And fast forward to today, you can see his collection of minimalist artworks and furniture. For example, he has an Anish Kapoor sculpture, multiple furnitures from minimalist designers Roy and Pierre Jenere, names I can never pronounce correctly, so pardon me for that. And one of my favorite is his appreciation of minimalist light artists, James Turrell. He's an artist who uses light and space for his work, and Kanye uses his work as a therapy light for his Sunday service performance. Other than that, he also worked with a Belgian interior designer, Axel Vervoort. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Axel's work has always been inspired by wabi-sabi. It's a Japanese appreciation of imperfection. By the way, if you've never heard of wabi-sabi, I made a video all about that and you can check it out over here. And with the help of Axel, you can find traces of deliberate imperfection in Kanye's house, and even with the use of wabi-sabi ceramic work by Shiro Sugimura. And next will be his dressing style. Some of us know, it used to be loud and flashy, and recently it became somewhat simple and minimal. And some might even call it homeless because he has been wearing baggy and washed out sweatshirt. And some of these minimalist aesthetics can be found on his design work for Easy Season, the muted color palette, and his rejection for branding. He once said this in an interview.
When I see branding, I see insecurity. I see people buying security, buying it back through a brand, protection, a badge. Don't mess with me in high school, I got Supremo,
I'll say it's rare, but you still can find certain logos printed here and there. But I'll say at least they are not superfluous, huge logos stamped across all of his products. Even though shoes collaborated with Adidas, the iconic three stripes branding aren't present most of the time. His work. Even though I'm not interested in his clothing line, but his minimalist approach to his work still attracts my attention Like many minimalists, he's a fan of Steve Jobs as well, so it's not hard to find him applying minimalism in his work, such as reducing redundancy of his easy foam runner. Similar to Steve's courage to remove keyboards from smartphones, he wanted this shoe design to be easy to make and simple. So he removed what we conventionally think is essential for a shoe, the tongue and laces. And that's the result of this Crocs looking shoe. By the way, all this while, he has been implementing minimalism belief in his work, not just on the fashion line, but also music.
You know, you have heard the word minimalism a lot on this project.
And he mentioned before, his 6th album, Eases, is a minimalist album. And it's during this period in an interview, he mentioned that he's a minimalist in a rapper's body. So especially for this album, he worked with another famous producer, Rick Rubin, who can be considered as a minimalist producer.
Rick Rubin producer. Reduced it. He's not a producer, he's a reducer.
So instead of saying he produced this album, he preferred to call it as Reduced by Rick Rubin. And no doubt, working with Rick on this minimalist album is not a question. I mean, he looked like an old minimalist that is interested in Zen and meditation. So, kinda stereotypical, but he looks like a cool minimalist. Kanye showed him a completed version of his music, while Rick was there slashing away non-essential sonic element, removing certain sound, until it became a piece of minimalist artwork. Don't quote me on that, I do enjoy his music, but I know nuts about the science behind creating beautiful vibrating air. However, when it comes to something visual, I'm pretty sure everyone can tell that there's something minimal about this album cover, because it's just a CD, inside a transparent CD case, and sealed with red tape. For all this while, I thought that's just an image printed for the album art. Only recently, then I realized the real album art is actually the removal of album art. No name, no title, no graphics. Well, I guess he didn't want the album cover to distract the audience from his music. Less distraction from the noise and more focus on the music. But the truth is, it attracts a lot of our attention because it's not the norm. When it comes to consumerism, Kanye has a lot of thoughts on this. He has been rapping and ranting about this from his first album all the way until today. And there's one song that strongly resonates with me, All Falls Down. He criticized the act of materialism and a little bit of self-mockery about his own self-conscious and insecurities about what's on his body.
I'm so self-conscious. That's why you always see me with at least one of my watches. Rollies and Porsches done drove me crazy. I can't even pronounce nothing. Pass that for Stacy. See, we buy a lot of clothes, but we don't really need them. Things we buy to cover up what's inside, cause they made us hate ourselves and love their wealth. That's why.
It reminds me of my younger self, caring way too much about fashion and the brand that were on me. And looking back, it's kinda silly. Kanye has other songs and interviews that talk about consumerism, but that comes the confusing part. He recognizes how bad conspicuous consumption can cause him. Still, he still can't get out of this kind of lifestyle, and I think that might be one of the reasons why many believe whatever he said is hypocritical. On one side, he's rapping about the negative impact of materialism, or saying that he wants his clothing line to be affordable. But on the other hand, he sells expensive clothing and owns what most of us would consider luxuries. To many, he might not be a good role model when it comes to minimalism and anti-consumerism. But still, I have to admit that some of his message is awfully true.
Give us what we need to proceed.
Not what we necessarily want, because we can't be trusted to a certain extent, you know.
Yeah, because we don't have the education to know what to want.
Yeah.
We don't know what to want.
And I would say, Kanye acknowledged the effect of consumerism and understand how it affects people. However, instead of seeing him giving us advice, why not look at it as him telling the truth about consumerism and how materialism works? Nothing good or bad, but it's just him sharing his story about what's happening. Like I've always said, take it with a pinch of salt. Similar to Fumio Sasaki, both of them are inspired by Steve Jobs' minimalism belief. However, how they apply minimalism into their lifestyle is utterly different. There's no right or wrong, but just what fits you. So is Kanye a minimalist to me? I'll say yes, as long as one is interested in applying this philosophy of reducing redundancy and only have the essential, then I'm sure one can call themselves a minimalist. Of course, he's much different from the stereotypical minimalist we imagine, but I'm pretty sure he has his own way of living a minimalist lifestyle. And up to this point, I have to say most of his approach is more towards the art form. Whether it's his living space, fashion line, or music. Of course, I'm not saying that you need to be like Kanye or own his products to be a minimalist. And I think everyone has our own take on minimalism. And the purpose of this video is to show you guys different ways of living a minimalist lifestyle. And I do plan to work on different minimalist lifestyle of famous people. So if you have someone in mind, let me know down in the comment section. So what do you think? Is Kanye a minimalist to you? Let me know down in the comment section as well. If you enjoyed watching this, a click on the like button will help a lot with the algorithm. And if you are new here, I make videos on minimalism and self-development. So if you are interested, you might want to consider subscribing to this channel or on the bell icon for future videos. That's all I have for you guys. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys again next week.